but it was setting it up. I'm like, I couldn't talk to anybody. So they're emailing with me, and there's 3 of them. And I wanted to say, most NFL teams create the Zoom link.
Hey, you guys about ready? Okay, count me down. We're ready. Okay, sounds like we're good to go. Welcome into KC Sports Tonight. Marleah Campbell and Neal Jones outside the team's training complex on day 2 of the NFL draft coming up here shortly. But Neal, in the meantime, we just got big news within really the half hour of the Chiefs' newest Hall of Fame inductee, Bill Moss, a guy I know you worked with kind of in his post-football career. I'm curious just your thoughts on his induction announcement and maybe a few highlights of his career.
Great play. Here's your coffee, by the way.
Thank you.
I had to hold her coffee so she could sit.
He wanted to do that.
So, Bill, as good as he was as a player, he was a nose tackle, first-round draft pick of the Chiefs in 1984. Played a huge role in that defense. They dominated people up front. But as good as he was as a football player, he was also probably better as an NFL analyst. And when he retired, he went straight to the top off the field and did games for Fox Sports when the Fox first got the NFL contract. And there were several times that his team, he and his partner, were ranked number 1 or 2 by the critics, ahead of some of the other teams that were supposedly better known or whatever. No, he's really good. We've been fortunate enough to have him come in as a guest on Channel 5 a bunch over the years, as a guest commentator on Price Chopper Game Day and some of the other shows. He always does a fabulous job. It's going to be, Marleah, one of the great things is, unlike some stadiums where they don't have the names up, or the names have been replaced by advertising, the Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium at least continue to have the names up on the lip of the stadium. So when you go, I don't care who you are, even media, you look around at all the names or remember all the people, so it's going to be great to see Bill's name up there. Yeah, well deserved. And Neal, do you have a favorite memory over the years? You've known him for so long. I know you were just texting him before we started this. As we look at the those are Astros fans.
We're at the Truman Sports Complex, and the Royals are kicking off, and I guess an hour and 5 minutes is starting to see fans roll in, and I think they see the KC Mike flag.
They're not tipping off. They're not kicking off either.
First pitch. Kicking off, tipping off. We've had a lot of stuff going on. Okay, where were we?
Well,
Bill Moss, favorite memories.
My memories of Bill, I think, I didn't cover him, so he moved on. He was in Green Bay at the end of his career. But my memories of Bill are just how glib he is on the air and how he tells it like it is.
Yeah.
He would criticize coaching decisions or players because he'd been a player. He had been a coach, and he was a star at the University of Pittsburgh, and then had a great career in the NFL. So when he spoke from experience, and he took it very seriously. He never criticized somebody to try to shine the spotlight on himself. He did it because he knew what he was doing. And I think my favorite story that he tells, or one of them, is what he was doing sideline on a Super Bowl game at the Superdome down in New Orleans, I believe, indoor dome stadium. And so the game was a blowout. They weren't really coming to the sideline very much, so he's just sitting around. And then they start talking. He notices that guys are coming off. They're having heat problems. You don't normally have guys having to get oxygen and water and then go in for IVs in a dome stadium, right? Mm-hmm. That's something that happens in a hot stadium. And then he looks up, and they had these banners up, red, white, and blue banners all over the thing. And a couple of them were being sucked up into the air conditioning system. And he goes to his producer, "Hey, wonder if it's that." And they get a shot of it. They come down, and he does this huge thing. And I guess USA Today did a big thing, or one of the newspapers nationally saying, Now that's some pretty good reporting when an ex-player can beat all the journalists on why it's so hot, and so that he thought that was pretty funny.
That's hilarious. Yeah, good lesson to pay attention to your surroundings. Well, we just heard from Bill Moss moments ago. Pretty cool to hear how much this moment meant to him. So that'll be coming up on our 6 o'clock news. But of course,
Are you in a Hall of Fame? Now you played basketball at Shawnee Mission West.
No.
Then you played basketball at Wyoming.
Also no.
You're not
0 for 2.
What about your grade school?
Still no, but I did find out in our media room there's a picture of me playing at Wyoming. One of the KU journalists was from Wyoming before that, and he told me that a couple weeks ago, which is kind of cool. But no, not on the same level.
Were you in a picture with a young lady who scored like 40, and so it's
I'm going like yeah, probably somewhere. Okay, big reason why we're here at the Chiefs training complex tonight. Of course, day 2 of the NFL draft kicking off in about 23 minutes.
Okay, let me ask you. I drove in last night. I was at Armand Mimbo's event at Lee Summit North High School. And so I had a 30-minute drive from there, right? And I left at about 10:30. So I'm driving, and I was listening to radio, and I was kind of stunned at the reaction to last night's first-round pick, and it was not very positive.
Really?
It wasn't negative, but it was kind of like,
Yeah.
you know?
Little kind of behind how the sausage was made is I was on air at 10:24, and I'm like, is the pick coming? Is the pick coming in? I keep checking my phone.
The pick is not going to be coming in that
well,
early.
as soon as I hang up, I get an alert on my phone, Chiefs trade with the Eagles.
Oh.
Literally seconds after we were done. But
I knew you guys were toast because it never happens in time.
Yeah, well, and if it happened later, that honestly would have been easier. But the Bills were on the clock during that hit.
They're police
Hello.
officers. We always wave to the
Smile
police
and wave.
officers.
What did you ask me? Oh, the pick, the Chiefs first-round pick. No, I mean, I think it was a no-brainer. One, because the left tackle spot has been something that we've been talking about for a year plus now, really since last year's training camp. Of course, they brought in a guy, 49ers backup Jalen Moore as reinforcements. This is a guy who didn't start a lot of games, but as Andy Reid pointed out, is played behind a first ballot Hall of Famer, so kind of a high bar there.
And when he played, because that first ballot Hall of Famer missed like 7 games this last year, when he played well.
Oh, great. Yeah, exactly. But still, that's a hole you want to fill. I think they talked about moving Kingsley Suamataia inside a little bit. Wanye Morris has shown injury issues over the years, so I think it's a good move. And secondly, I was listening to Brett Veach and Andy Reid talk here. We were here until like 12:30, 1 o'clock last night, but they were talking about how a big reason why. Yeah,
you didn't go out afterwards.
I know, you'll be
go
shocked.
To Denny's and get something to eat.
Crawled into bed and came right back here, but we were listening to them talk yesterday, and they said, this is kind of a steal. This is a guy who had a patellar tendon issue. He had a surgery, so he just played 6 games last season, but had he not had that injury, they expected him to be a top 5, top 10 pick guy. And, the Chiefs training staff had done their medical evaluations, and this is something that, Neal, they do very strictly, and they felt really good about where he was at. So if you have a guy who has the talent potential of being a top 5, top 10 pick, he slides down because of a knee injury, but your medical staff gives him the all clear. I mean, that sounds like a good situation to me.
Okay, I heard 810 radio this morning on the way. I had to go do something early in the morning, and they played an interview from yesterday with a medical person who specializes in sports, and he goes on shows and stuff. And he was talking about the potential of this guy coming and being drafted. So this is yesterday afternoon or yesterday morning, and he said, look, the patella is not a 1-year fix. Yeah. So it may be a year and a half. He may not be able to play football to a real high level for a year and a half. But the good news is, as you said, the Chiefs got the first. They got the draft, not the draft. They signed the free agent from San Francisco, so they may not need this guy for a year or two. And if he's as good as he was, they're going to have a big time left tackle for a long time in the NFL. If he doesn't turn out, if that knee never comes around, it'll be another left tackle that they drafted that didn't work. Well, it'll be interesting. We'll have to figure out.
Yeah, and Veach called him a future starter last night, which is high praise coming from him. So,
it's a first-round pick.
And yes, I would hope he's a future starter.
First 3-round guys should start.
Yeah, I'll add that something we haven't mentioned yet was the Chiefs also picked up a 5th-round pick in that trade, trading back one with the Eagles.
That was huge.
And that was huge because the Chiefs had a couple of 4th-round picks and a 7th, so they had that big gap. And we've seen what Veach is capable of in those late rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a really smart move. They lost nothing and they gained something potentially a lot. And as you said, he has shown an ability to pick up players who end up being key contributors in the later rounds. It's not just Isaiah Pacheco in the 7th round. There are a bunch of guys on that defense that did not come in with headlines, but they left here in headlines.
Outside of Trent McDuffie, a lot of the guys on that secondary were 6th, 7th round picks. So should be a good move. We'll see how it pans out. But, of course, we have a lot more picks tonight. Neal, we were talking to Veach yesterday, and he said,
why do you always say Veach?
What do you call him? Brett? I don't think
manager.
I'm on a first name basis.
I don't know. I wouldn't call him Brett, but I wouldn't call him Veach.
Okay. Anyway, Veach said
GM.
that the GM said that a lot of the excitement, a lot of the anticipation is often around the first round picks naturally, but that he gets most excited for rounds 2, rounds 3, and then day 3 because the top 35 picks for all teams are about the same, give or take a couple sliding positions. But once you get past 40, 45, 50, that's where this thing really starts to open up. You start to get some surprises, some differing grades by different teams. So we got, right now, 1 pick in the 2nd round tonight, 2 in the 3rd. Veach, of course, could trade up or down. The GM, of course, could trade up or down. You're welcome. Catching myself. How do you feel about tonight? Maybe top priorities you're looking at?
I just think that they know their board. If they have players who are available for them on their board who they judge highly, take them. If they don't, trade down. If you can find a trade partner, trade down and get more picks. I don't second guess. I mean, in other NFL cities, if you're in Dallas, for instance, you could have if you're in the media, you got a field day because they haven't won anything. Well, this coach, this offensive coordinator, this defensive coordinator, this entire coaching staff, this general manager, the entire front office, all the scouts, they've proven what they can do. Yeah. Who are you and I? Hall of Famer at University of Wyoming, Hall of Famer at Western Village Elementary School in Oklahoma City. Who are we to question it? We can talk about, I don't know, like for instance, I would have been, I think the marketplace, this market would have been a lot more excited had they gone for Luther Burden III, who was available for them last night at number 32. And everybody be going, can you imagine this guy being added to that offense? He's so fast, and Patrick Mahomes, my gosh. But as we saw, if Patrick Mahomes doesn't have blocking, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect way to put it. They were talking last night a little bit about your number 1 weapon is Patrick Mahomes. 2, you got to give him time, and then you can find his target. So, he talked about before the draft about how they were looking at O-line, D-line, receiver, and corner. So one of those 3 checks is already checked off the box. And then he did mention that he expects to pick up a running back at some point throughout the team's 8 picks, now 9 picks, going to be a deep draft class. So last thing I guess we'll touch on is the local guys. We have a number of local guys we're expecting to hear tonight. Luther Burden, a guy you mentioned out of Mizzou, wide receiver. Devin Neal, a running back out of Kansas who stuck around in Lawrence for an extra year and had a tremendous season.
Jacob Parrish, the cornerback
Jacob Parrish
from
out of K-State. Yeah, a lot of different guys we'll hear called. But, Neal, I'll start with this. Are you surprised that Burden dropped out of round 1? I know he was a little bit on the bubble.
I asked a couple of scouts about him, and they were very non-committal. They didn't. Yeah. They were not. They were like, well, he's a good player. He didn't get them going. Now, they are AFC scouts in the East, and I don't know. I wonder if it's just a simple thing as he got caught up in the numbers, or there were other positions and needs on other teams. I think he'll be gone after tonight because for real, I think he's a 2nd round pick. He's a wide receiver can be a great 2nd round pick, but when you have a lot of needs, sometimes a wide receiver isn't the guy you pick, and I think that might have been the case for the Chiefs last night. Yeah,
well, a lot of excitement to come. 2nd and 3rd rounds tonight, as we mentioned, 3 picks, 1 in the 1st, 2 in the 2nd, and then 5 more tomorrow. What's up?
Yeah, where are you going to be Sunday?
Studio. I'm in the studio, and you're going to be. I don't even think I've asked yet. At the
right,
K.
Right at the K. Why?
Yeah, because the Royals.
We have the game. We have the Royals.
This is huge. This has been so exciting, Neal. We've had 1 on our air already. This is the 2nd.
1-0, baby.
Good luck so far. 2nd of 10 games on our air. You can find a full list over on kctv5.com/Royals. But Neal, I got so much positive feedback about being able to watch the Royals on local television again. I know you've been around through all sorts of eras of Royals baseball.
Well, like a lot of people, I have YouTube TV, so we can't see all the guys I love seeing. Ryan and Rex and all those guys with the pregame and postgame show with Monty and Joel Goldberg.
Yep.
I can't remember Joel's name. Joel's been so nice to Channel 5. So I loved that very, very much. I'm excited about Sunday. We reached out, and Q, the manager, Matt Quatrero, is considering starting Chris Bubich on Sundays that the games are on Channel 5 because he pitches fast and he wins.
Yep.
So we asked that, but I don't know if he's going to go for it.
We'll see if he makes the adjustment for us. Yeah. Ryan Hennessy, one of our news reporters, did a really cool story on the first day that we had the game on our air of a nursing home that got to all get together and watch the game together, and they talked about how much they mean to them. So that'll be exciting. KSMO on Sunday as the Royals take on the Astros in Game 3 of 3, Game 1 and 3, getting ready to start at the Truman Sports Complex right across from where we're standing right now. And Neal, rookie minicamp right behind us next weekend. So lots to look forward to. But as the sun is coming out, we will call it a day and see you on the 6 o'clock news.